Hello, so today we're up to the next story about Abraham and Sarah. So, in our last story we'll learn about Hagar having Ishmael. We learned about the God who sees us and hears us and cares about us. So, Abraham and Sarah still haven't had their own child. And by now, Abraham is about 99 years old and Sarah is 89 years old. And they're still waiting. Is God going to keep his promise? Well, one day, it was a very hot day, and Abraham was sitting in his tent because they were still living in tents. They didn't have, a nice house. They lived in tents, and they were living out where it's very hot. And so he was just sitting there in his tent having a rest while it was the hottest time of the day. And Sarah was also in a tent as well. And Abraham looked out, and he saw 3 men coming. Now, they were not people that he knew, but he wanted to be hospitable to them. He cared about them. He knew they were out there. It was very hot and they were traveling. They don't have cars or buses or trains or those kind of things with air conditioning. They're walking out in the hot sun. And so he went to meet them and he said, come and sit down. We'll get you some food. We'll get you some drink. We'll wash your feet. Just come and sit down with us. And so he got them to sit down under the shade of a tree. And then he got busy. Now, he wants to give them a meal. But, he can't just put down to the supermarket because there's no supermarkets where he lives. And he doesn't have a fridge or a freezer. He's got nothing like that. So it's quite a big thing for him to get a meal together for these people. And it's the hottest time of the day. And yet he cares about them. He doesn't just care about himself. He's not selfish. So he goes and finds Sarah and says, Sarah, I need you to cook some bread for these. We've got these 3 visitors out here. Can you cook me some bread for them? And she agrees to do it. And now he wants to give them some meat. He can't go into the fridge and pull out some sausages or something that, can quickly cook up. He can't go and get something out of the freezer. He doesn't have an oven. He doesn't have a microwave. So, do you know where he goes? He goes out in the field. He goes out to the cows and he finds an animal to have for dinner or for lunch. So he's going to kill the animal and then he's got to, cut it up and cook it. So it's quite a big thing to cook a meal for these 3 men. But he did it and he got one of his servants to come and help him. And then he did it all. They got it all cooked. And then he got some milk and some butter. And so he was able to serve this meal to these 3 men. And so they're sitting there. And what Abraham doesn't know is that 2 of these men are angels. And the other one, the Bible says it is the Lord. So it was God as a person. So he doesn't know this, and yet he's just caring about these strangers, and he wants to treat them how he would want to be treated if he was out traveling in the hottest time of the day. And yet he was really caring for God himself. So he serves these guys this meal under the tree. He's gone to all the effort in the hottest time of the day. And these guys say to him, where's Sarah, your wife? And he says, oh, she's in the tent over there. But Sarah was listening to what they were saying. Maybe she was eavesdropping, or maybe she could just hear. She's probably wondering who these guys are and what they're doing. And one of these guys says, in 9 months, Sarah is going to have a son. Now, Sarah inside the tent hears this, and now she didn't laugh out loud, but inside herself, she kind of laughed and thought, yeah, right. I'm way too old to have a baby. I mean, imagine telling a 89-year-old lady that she is going to have a baby. I think anybody would laugh if you told them that. But, God has already promised that she's going to have a child. But it is very hard to believe when you're already too old. But there's men outside, even though she only laughed inside herself. Remember, God is the God who hears and who sees us. And one of those men said, why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord? And he said, Sarah will certainly have a child. At the right time, in 9 months' time, Sarah will have a child. And then Sarah, she got scared and she said, I didn't laugh. But the man said, you did. Because God sees, and God knows, God hears. So he said, yes, you did. And so these guys, they were wanted to go to Sodom, where Lot lives. And so Abraham said, I'll show you the way, come with me. And so he started traveling with them. And the one who was the Lord said, should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do? I know Abraham, that he will teach his children about God. He loves God. So should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do? And so he did tell Abraham what he was going to do. He said, we've been sent to come and see the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, because we've heard they're very, very wicked. We've come to see for ourselves if they're really that wicked, and we've come to destroy the city. And then the two guys, the two angels, they went on to Sodom, and Abraham and the Lord stopped and talked. Now straight away Abraham thinks of Lot, because Abraham is not a selfish person. Straight away thinks, oh, but Lot lives in Sodom. What about Lot? And so he says to the Lord, but what about the good people in the city? What about the people who do love God? Would you destroy the city with them in it, even though there are good people in there, people that love God and want to serve him and follow him? Because Lot did love God. Even though he lived in that city and made bad choices, he did love God. And the Lord said, Abraham said to the Lord, what if there were 50 men? What if there were 50 good people in that city? Would you still destroy it? And the Lord said, no, if there are 50 good people in that city, we will not destroy it. And then Abraham thought, oh, I don't even know if there are 50. He said, well, what about if there's just 45 good people in that city? Would you still destroy it? And the Lord said, no, I would not destroy it if there is 45. And then Abraham said, well, what if there's only 40 good people there? Would you still destroy it? And the Lord said, we will not destroy it if there is only 40. And then Abraham said, well, please don't be angry with me, but what if there's only 30 good people there? Would you destroy it if there were 30 good people there? And the Lord said, no, we will not destroy it if there are 30 good people. Now, this is turning into a little bit like an auction, isn't it? Abraham's still not sure if there are even 30 good people. He says, what about if there's only 20 good people? Will you still destroy the city? And the Lord said, no, we will not destroy it if there's only 20. And then Abraham got a bit scared and he said, well, please don't be angry with me, but what if there's only 10? If there's just 10 good people in that city who love you, will you still destroy it? And the Lord said, no, we will not destroy it if there are only 10 good people. So the Lord went on and Abraham went back home. Now, how many good people are there in Sodom? Will there be even 10? Now the question for you is, if you had lived in Sodom, would you have been a good person? Now by a good person, I'm not meaning that you're, really good and always doing things right. I mean good people who love the Lord. Are you somebody who loves the Lord? Do you want to please the Lord? Do you care about what God says? Do you want to please God? Do you believe on him? So if you had been in Sodom, would you have been someone who loved the Lord? That's a question for you to think about.